morning, everybody, and Stocktwits Nation. It is Thursday, May 29th. It's a wild Thursday. We had some things happen yesterday. We had the Nvidia earnings. We had some tariff stuff going down, which is crazy. I'm here, as always, with Shay Boloor. We're here to unpack it for you today. Let's start with the tariffs. Shay, what? Okay, so let me just, for anyone who's been under a rock, last afternoon, last night, the U.S. Court of International Trade has officially blocked President Trump's global tariff initiative. So they're saying that the Emergency Powers Act he invoked actually doesn't give him the authority to unilaterally impose sweeping levies. This has actually never happened before in history in this way. I'll get into it, but Nixon had some pushback, Clinton did. But this is pretty wild. And from what I'm reading, at least, I'm curious what you think, Shay. It's looking like the appeal could take 6 to 12 months. If it gets to the Supreme Court, that's another year. Are these things actually going to happen? What have we been doing since April? What's your read on all this?
Yeah, so I think first off, it's all noise. It's not a signal. There's going to be a dance, and unfortunately, the judicial system is extensive on any kind of appeal process. So if this lasts like the full appeal time window of 6 months, we're screwed already because these tariffs, they're not going to change until the all the dancing is over with in the courtrooms. Like it's gonna be there until then. And I think a lot of people are underwriting, myself included, that this is going to resolve itself before Q3, Q4 of this year. If it carries into 2026 at the current tariff rates that we have right now implemented, we're in serious trouble because it's uncomfortable right now for a lot of enterprises and consumers. It's going to be irritant, like a lot more irritating if this is lasting until 2026, and you're going to feel it a lot more in your pockets and on consumer demand, and the paralysis is going to turn into just leaving essentially and waiting this out. And I wouldn't be surprised if we see the market fade on this move. I actually don't know what it's doing right now, but again, market craves clarity. It just craves it. That's the one thing, one pillar it absolutely needs. This unfortunately causes more noise. However, luckily this all happened the same day. Nvidia absolutely delivered on their earnings report. So I think you have to ask yourself, all right, this is kind of all fugazi type of stuff on this appeal process, but the actual binary substance showed us proof the AI economy is running really strong, and it's a safety blanket that has so many different companies under its web that the indices will just do just fine because the engines of the fourth industrial revolution are humming, and that's actual facts. Everything else is just a show.
Yeah, I mean it's crazy. Like once again, we're digging into these topics that seem to have nothing to do with the markets, constitutional law, separation of powers. But yeah, it's very typical of this year that all these things are happening in tandem. And you made a good point, Chai, because I actually didn't think about this. I'm not sure. I assume during when the administration pushes back and they appeal, are the tariffs on or are they not on? And that is it the case that they keep going until the case clears up?
I think so. I mean, first of all, this is unprecedented. So like,
Yeah, like I don't know. Like this
I
is a
don't,
business show. I'm like, what?
I
I'm
will,
like looking.
I will say that like the midterms, like I feel like this timeline can really impact the midterms come next year, and I think that that's going to be a much bigger uh like
Yeah,
narrative than all this. Like you just never know. Like again, I just think that maybe the market bouncing 2% after hours yesterday was just a little too aggressive. But I also think you need to factor in like where we were 6 weeks ago, April 5th, April
yeah,
7th. Like that was, we
yeah.
had no idea what the sandbox of risk was going to be. Now we are just fussing about this little segment where the worst is behind us. And now I do believe that the new tariff, like we're not going to go back to the pre-tariff rates ever again.
Yeah.
I really don't think so. I think it's going to be something about, I'm hoping 5% for China, 5 to 7%. I really do think they're going to settle at 10 to 15%, and that's going to be a big win, most
Yeah.
likely. And I think that you're seeing Nvidia kind of relieve the heartburn from the US government that you they're showing signs that you don't really need China to survive, not just survive, thrive in AI, that there's so much demand elsewhere that if you get the fabs in place domestically through TSM, for example, the East is going to be like, whoa, like we aren't as important as we think. We can't just keep copying all of the US IP and make it 60 to 70% just as good and expect that to be good enough. Like, I don't think that's good enough anymore in the AI machine learning era we're about to enter. So, like, I think that there is a world where if China's put in a corner, they're going to invade Taiwan. That's the danger, where there's this fine line of stabilizing yourself away from the East, but doing it in a fashion where they don't feel threatened on their presence in the world order. And that's like a really tricky balance.
Yeah. While you were talking, I consulted Grok on our little con law issue. I feel like I'm doing this so much lately where I'm like, why am I Googling this? Like, why am I looking this up? So according to Grok, which, take it with a grain of salt, it is frequently wrong. But they are saying that the tariffs are not in effect during the appeal process. If that's true, that would be why the market's reacting the way it is. Tariffs are not in effect during the appeal process unless a higher court, such as the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Federal Circuit, grants a stay to suspend the law. So until that happens, they're not on. We were already delayed, so now my brain's going to, did he know this was coming? And he's like, I'm delaying them, knowing that they were going to be delayed. Who knows? But like, it's wild to think about. But I think this is just like we were talking about yesterday with Michael. There's so many inputs for investors these days. You have to understand deep into the industries you're investing in, the companies, macro, and also now this like geopolitical stuff. So, and this is all on top of I don't know if you saw the presser yesterday where someone asked him about the taco trade. Did you hear about this?
Yeah.
So yeah, someone's like, oh, what about the taco trade? And he was like, what's that? And like, oh, Trump always chickens out. And he was like, don't ever say that to me again. But I'm like, my conspiratorial brain is like, maybe his lawyers knew this was coming. They're like, yo, push it back a month to make it look like it was your idea. Who knows? But it's all, like you said, it's all distraction from the stuff
Well,
you and I actually care about.
just think about this. Like, first off, I've been watching Veep. If you guys don't watch Veep on HBO Max, like, it's one of my favorite shows of all
Best
time.
show
Like,
ever.
it's very dishonest politics. Let's just say that. And I think the taco trade, what's Trump's way of getting out of the taco trade? Like, just think about it. He can't look like a chickening out. Maybe he overplayed his hand. Maybe it was too aggressive, his strategy of everyone all at once. How do you get out of this little hole, big hole that he dug himself into? Something judicial that's going to force his hand and he can go back. I tried, guys, but the system prevented me from doing so. This gives him that out
Yeah.
without looking like the chicken, like the taco.
Yeah.
So I think that maybe there's some orchestration in the background on some pushing on POTUS's side of the government where, like, because this is a lose-lose scenario. This is not what we envisioned it was going to be like 1 to 2 months ago. We need to get out of this or we're going to lose the midterms. We're going to lose our party's presence right now because we have a universal red. How do we get out of this? Let's just have the federal courts reject it and there's nothing we can do. Our hands are tied.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many ways it could go. That would be an interesting play, but not that out of the realm of possibility. The other one, I freaking love this show. You don't even need to know what's going on. It's just so funny. If you haven't seen this, where was I going with that? Oh, well, the other piece too, though, is, there's been a little bit, it seems like the business elites, these big leaders have been like lining up. They're flying to Saudi Arabia. They're coming to Mar-a-Lago. And I'm like wondering if like behind the scenes, they were just kind of going along with it for now, knowing that this was going to happen, because there were rumblings about this constitutional issue very early on. I remember reading about it and thinking like, how come no one's talking about this? Because legal experts were like, wait a minute, this is actually not in the realm of what the president can do in this situation. And it kind of just like went away. But now I'm like, is he like, in high school, like the rich kid who had the swimming pool, who's like, everyone's nice to his face. Everyone wants to go to the pool. They don't want to like not get the invite, but they're all talking shit behind his back. And like, I'm like, was this like, you think Tim Cook and Sam Altman and Zuck, were they kind of just like, yeah, okay, we'll come. Yeah, we'll come down, knowing that this was going to happen. There's like so many things at play. And again, when we go back to investing, it's like how there's no clarity. I think the market sees some clarity today because it's obviously reacting the way it's reacting, but like it's impossible to navigate this right now.
I mean, that's why it's so important to go find some resources that help you find the signal through all the noise, because this is a very noisy investing environment. You can make the argument that a Trump-led presidency just creates noise, fine, but it's noisy. You're going to get a lot of misleading information, and I think it's important to kind of learn the tools to build your own conviction, because conviction is how you find the signal through all the noise and chaos. For me, you guys, I studied economics in college, but like I'm not a macro guy at all. Like I had to get some rust off to where my macro had in 2025, or especially this past like 2 months. I hate it. I don't like macro. It's theater. And I just think that theater is for investing. I think theater doesn't provide you actual insights. It just creates noise. And
Yeah.
Katie, like we mentioned, like if this gets rejected, and what was the last 2 months? What was all those hours we all talked about it, mental capital used? It was wasted
I
on
know.
what?
We could have been
Nothing.
talking about a million other things.
We
That's
could
why I
have
was
been
like,
you could have been learning AI in that meantime and been
I'm,
much bigger expert.
yeah, that it makes me so mad, but I feel like that's very typical of the times we're in. But it's interesting because your investment philosophy is very like focused and you have a vision for the future. I think I'm like the opposite. Like I don't know what's going on. I kind of have like a journalist brain and I like digging into things and digging information. I love all the surrounding tea. So whenever like the macro stuff's fascinating to me, I'm like, ooh, what happened with the housing starts? Like what happened with, interest rates? But it's interesting. Like, I think your focus though right now is the paradigm for how to kind of navigate this, because it's like, what you believe in, what you believe to be true no matter what. Like you said, everything else is noise and you're just focused. Even, I asked you the first question, you immediately went back to Nvidia, and it's true. It's like, yeah, but let's talk about Nvidia. Like, I think this company is important. So I think it's a good model for people to follow, and
Well,
like, it's fun to chase the headlines, but like, know what you believe in.
it is a good model, but also like it correlates with my personal life. My fiance hates this because she doesn't think I take things seriously. But the real reality is like I'm Logic Man. I always like I call she calls me Logic Man. Where like I if I see it's a waste of my mental capital, I don't view it as stress. I just move
Yeah.
on to something else. And her perception is like I don't take it seriously. Well, I just don't think it's a big rock. It's actually a little rock, and little rocks are meant to be down by my feet, not near my head space. So I think
Yeah.
that like yeah, I mean, if I was I'm a thematic investor. Luckily, I just invest in themes I have conviction in. If I wasn't that, I think I would be in most of my position would be in cash, and I think I'd be missing out on a pretty crazy rally the past couple years. So I think it's very fortunate that I'm not that.
Yeah.
And yeah, just know your lane and stick with your lane. Like it's okay to not branch out of it when that's the hot pocket. Like I have my lane, I'm very cozy in it and stay in it.
Yeah, I think it's smart. And also, like, another silver lining I was thinking about this morning on the way in was uh, all the retail investors who came in and bought the dip, look like freaking geniuses right now.
Yeah.
Um, so I'm like, that's where I'm like, again, I'm like, oh, okay, was this all intentional? Is it like a transfer of wealth thing? And like, I don't know, but people are making money. So some people are up. Most of us are right back where we started. Let's double click into Nvidia though, because you started to kind of talk about what their earnings yielded yesterday. They had 69% year-over-year revenue surge, double beat, relentless demand really for their chips. This all in the context of the China H20 situation where they're taking write down for that, and I think they said it was going to be $8 billion next quarter. Like market didn't seem to care. Is this going into this earnings call? Was this outcome better than you expected, Shy, or about what you expected?
Much better than I expected, because I think they absorbed the China hits with just a breeze. Like it was, they got it up with the China impact. They got it up. I think was an $8 billion hit that they're estimating was going to be their real ding. Next, I'm pulling it up right now. Yeah, so everyone was worried about China. Clearly, the China write downs, $5.5 billion. Like that was pretty brutal. And I think that they $8 billion was what they're anticipating the rest of the time. And I think that their guide is essentially in line with the buy side and $2 billion above the sell side. I think it is. So they're saying like, all right, well, if we didn't have the China problem, we'd actually be significantly guiding up right now. And that's the wow moment. It's like, all right, well, if this is really just a show theater, the real substance, it's showing us that we're underestimating right now the AI economy. It's not maturing. It's actually just about to hit full speed. And I think the biggest nugget for me on Nvidia was the networking revenue. You guys hear me say this all the time past couple weeks, ever since the DeepSeek noise or ever since this China FUD on Nvidia. I was like, all right, fine. The training data is about to get cheap. Great. Inference data is about to explode. I made the reference of if compute is like gas, if gas becomes cheaper to use, more people are going to be willing to buy cars because they can afford to drive from point A to point B a lot easier than what it was before when gas was super expensive. The same thing is accurate with compute or training data. If training data becomes cheaper, the demand for AI will skyrocket, and that's going to cause a huge boom for the inference data. And where can you see the inference data in the Nvidia earnings? You can see it in the networking revenue, and that was a major beat. It was not just like a casual beat. I think estimates were 3.5 billion. They came in at 5 billion.
Whoa.
So that was a massive beat, and that's causing that makes sense because again, when training data becomes cheaper, what's gonna cause a jump in the inference workloads? And Jensen already made comments that there's a 30x jump in inference workloads, and AI agents are thinking in multi-step reasoning tasks now, which require a lot more data. So that's not just gonna be demand on the GPU. Like inference data is about to explode, and you're gonna see like that demand shatter every single PCIe limits and like the CXLs. Like I won't get too like nerdy about it, but like let's just say that Nvidia is turning into an AI factory and computes the utility. And there is going to, this is just the beginning of this inference boom that we're seeing right now on Nvidia. And I think that's fine. View Nvidia as just a hardware company. You're mispricing the company in itself. And I think that's what there's also read-throughs. Like I think Broadcom and Astera Labs are going to be doing really well from this print. Like you're going to see them catch major bids. And yeah, I think Nvidia is just everyone keeps talking about like China, Huawei, just like creating this competition. Like I think that's
Call 'em BS.
I call it just it's just such BS. Like I mentioned yesterday with Michael in a way where I just think that Nvidia is clearly not relying on China anymore. Like they're meeting expectations with all this China headwind. I think they're moving past China. I really do think so, and I think that all the narrative that China's building custom chips, Blackwell killer's on its way, Nvidia's lead is narrowing. These are all just noise. Like again, if you want signal, that's not it. That's all noise. Because if it was that simple, I really do believe these hyperscalers, the Googles, Microsofts, Metas, Amazon's, companies with literally unlimited R&D budgets would have replaced CUDA. They just haven't been able to figure out, but somehow China, under sanctions that are locked out of TSM and ASML, is going to figure out somehow. I don't think so. It's no way. That doesn't make sense. It's like,
and if they do, we're gonna play this clip back. But I think Michael was aligned with you. It was like, yeah, they have a real edge there. And I think about something Michael said yesterday of like his knowledge of Jensen Huang on a fairly intimate level of him being such an apolitical animal. And to your point, like he's probably just like, cool, China's out, on to the next. Like he just seems like that kind of guy where he's like he's not gonna go like whine, he's not gonna lobby. I mean, maybe he is, or he's just like, yeah, cool, I'll just like go make money somewhere else. It's fine, and go about his day. And you kind of started to answer the question I was gonna ask you next, which was if the inference piece is an area of growth, who else benefits? And so I think you mentioned Broadcom, but like what other companies or types of companies based on that signal could also benefit looking at kind of what Nvidia was reporting?
Yeah, so I mean, I'll talk Astera Labs. I think that's my play on this. That's what I actually own if I'm talking my book. But Broadcom, I think Broadcom's often overlooked. Like I really do think like they're powering all the plumbing behind these AI workloads. Like the custom silicon chips that every hyperscaler uses. The high-speed networking is what is relied upon on those hyperscalers creating these custom silicon solutions. And even Apple silicon like relies on Broadcom. So if you think about it, and if NVIDIA is the GPU engine or compute engine, Broadcom is the glue holding the hyperscaler AI infrastructure together. So that's one on why Broadcom is just it's just always it's always under discussed, and I think it's just because they're a $1 trillion company maybe, but like I think that you don't move trillions of tokens per quarter like you just heard Jensen talk about without their silicon photonics and custom silicon chips and like the hardware stacks that Broadcom dominates. Like they're inside all these hyperscalers networking. So like it's foundational. But then if you look at Astera Labs, like that's the one I'm like, guys, I think this is going to be a massive winner. And the reason for that is they're solving a massive bottleneck issue that really isn't coming to light yet, but it's going to as the networking side of NVIDIA's business scales or AI scales. Because when inference becomes a primary driver compute, which it hasn't yet, but it's going to, and that's not just going to be an isolated inference, it's going to be AI driven, multi-model reasoning. Like there's going to be so many different derivatives of inference, not just what we're seeing right now. Like you just don't need better chips. You need better bridges, more memory lanes, smarter cables, like all these latency issues that might come to light. Like latency is the kryptonite for AI workloads. That's like a really, really important component that nobody really talks about. That's why I love Cloudflare. They reduce latency. But Astera Labs, they reduce latency on deployments. And I think that's where their perfect fit is. And their Scorpion product is disrupting parts of NVIDIA's networking business. So you might be like, all right, well, if rampant inference workloads is going to increase, why would NVIDIA not try to put all their eggs into that basket to make sure they don't lose their pricing power? But they just made an announcement just literally 2 weeks ago with their NVLink partnering up with Astera Labs. I think they're showing me or showing the market that it's no longer enough to have this raw GPU horsepower. Like you need synchronized systems where the memory interface, the switches, the smart cable modules, like aren't just bottlenecks; they're enablers, and we can't afford to get greedy with this. Like if we want this become the kingpin new digital economy, we're gonna have to partner up with the best player to help us with that, and that's Astera Labs. So they made that partnership announcement, and whenever you see a bigger player partner up with a potential future competitor, that shows to me their product is chef's kiss. We just need to partner up with them, and there's nothing we can do about it. Maybe we can create a competing product, fine, or price them out, but is it worth our squeeze? I don't think so. Just partner up with them. And I think that's why Astera Labs is going to catch a major bit. Maybe it did already because it's up nearly a double in the past like 2 months. But I think this is a company, like I mentioned, Nvidia's showing signs of like where the next hot pocket's going to be in the stack. It's where Astera Labs bread and butter is it a $15 billion company? I don't think so even. It's just kind of a smaller mid cap. So like got tons of room to run.
Yeah, it's interesting to hear you talk about the AI stack because I feel like again we had Michael Park on yesterday. This guy's like OG, been covering internet companies since literally Google was founded prior. But it's almost like the way you're talking about it, the level of sophistication that you're talking about it now, Shy, is like the mass population will get there in like several years of like, we all understand the basic underpinnings of the internet now. But imagine like 1995 explaining these things to somebody. And I think that's why like it's important to like find people who like can understand this stuff and get knowledgeable about it, because even when sometimes when I'm reading up on this stuff, I'm like, I don't get it. But you got to think, 30 years ago, same thing was happening. People were like, wait, I don't understand. Like, I don't understand how this works. How come this connection happens? What's the role of the telco? What's the role of, the Googles? And so the same way we learned that ecosystem, we have to learn this one. Mm-hmm. And I think yesterday's conversation and what you just went through is like really important for people. Again, as they're like looking at all these opportunities, like how do they all fit together?
No, I mean, first off, appreciate the kind words. I think that it's really important because I see anecdotal evidence in my life 2 years ago. I was like, this is happening really quickly. The AI, like how it's changing my everyday life through my corporate strategy role, through my consumer role as just Shay Boloor. Like it was just like it was changing quickly, and I think that I was still seeing the narrative that it was potentially going to be like a 3D printing thematic. I'm like, no fucking way.
Yeah,
What are you talking about? And I think, and you saw yesterday's comment that Jensen is like, he's seeing AI growing faster than the internet, faster than mobile, faster than cloud, and he thinks their AI is going to be bigger than all of those thematics. That's coming from the person who owns the rails of this whole economy. So that's just telling you proof, like AI is very real and it's going to change every structurally shift every single thing that you know about today. It's one of those things where it's going to replace intelligence. And when you have something that disruptive, you have to study upon it. Like I hear all the time stories about, oh man, I'm so annoyed. Like I didn't go hard on the early days of the internet because like internet is everywhere. It's everything. All like it's everywhere. It's the biggest commodity ever. But the signs were there on like who the disruptors were going to be, but people were just like, they thought they missed it because they missed the first leg. That's the thing about marathons. There's a ton of legs in it. If you miss the first one, fine. Like AI is in the second inning, maybe third inning of its ball game, but people are treating it like the seventh inning stretch because they saw Palantir turn into a mega cap and Nvidia to a $3 trillion company. No, those are just the first movers. There's going to be dare I say it, there's going to be another Nvidia eventually. I think Michael mentioned that comment as well yesterday where I forgot, was it Google? Yeah, Google was really created 9 years after the internet.
Yeah. Yeah, that was wild, the Netscape, because I'm like, Netscape. Like, it's weird to think about in like 20, 30 years, Nvidia could be seen as the Netscape of this, but it's crazy. But I think that's a good point. Like, if you really believe that this is fundamentally changing society, which a lot of experts do, and you can draw your own conclusions from that, like you're not late. But you also saw, did you see what the Anthropic CEO said yesterday, Shay, about,
preaching to the choir.
You literally said the same thing yesterday, and then he said it. So if you guys didn't miss it, he said AI could eliminate half of all entry-level white-collar jobs within 5 years, potentially pushing unemployment as high as 20%. You said what, 10%, Shay?
I was trying not to be as much of a Grinch, but like I'm telling you guys, like it's coming, and within 5 years, I've been saying end of this decade, and 20%. I don't think the world's ready for 20%. I don't think it's ever. Don't quote me historically. I don't know what the highest rate was for unemployment, but 1 in 5 people is crazy to me, and it's going to require universal basic income (UBI) eventually if it hits that level.
Also, just what are people going to do all day? Okay, so during the Great Depression, the unemployment rate reached its peak in 33 at 25%. That was some bad times. Like you had the Dust Bowl stuff. So that's not far off.
But back then, though, there wasn't really credit, so there wasn't an anchor on everyone's lives, or wow, if there's a wave, I have an anchor on my ankle that if I can't survive the top, I'm going to be sinking quickly. So like, I do think there is a world where it might create another great financial crisis for a lot of people. And I don't think society's preparing us for that tsunami
Yeah.
hitting, and that's the scary part.
Yeah, I mean, and one thing, like, again, like, not to dig into politics too much, but I know the Harvard stuff going on, and we talked about that yesterday, which is fascinating. But one thing I was reading was that Trump wants to take away money from places like Harvard and put it into trade schools. And you zoom out from an apolitical lens, and it's like, yeah, maybe, because people are going to have to be trained to fix the humanoid robots and fix
Hmm.
the things. And so I think there's something there to that of this trend of the white collar jobs drying up a little bit, fewer opportunities, and then there's going to be all of this more physical AI that for some time period will need to be managed by human beings. And it is like if he's saying 5 years, like we are not ready for this at all.
No, we're not. And like, that's why it's so important to, like, if you have an idea right now or a thought and you're just like waiting for the opportunity or waiting on time to fit your needs of like, all right, I'm so busy right now, like I think sometime next year, like I'll probably have bigger bandwidth. Don't, like, it's a sprint now. You need a sprint, because if you think capitalism's really harsh right now and it's unfair, you have no idea what's going to be like in 5 years. It's going to be so ridiculous. The mountain is going to be so much higher than it is right now on your feeling that you have to climb it just to get to your goals. So again, don't be shuckle to the W2 weight where like that's preventing you from doing whatever you want to do long term, your dreams. Like you have to figure out a way to build towards that right now, because like you have all the AI tools necessary to kind of create your own SMB if you want. Like sure, people can't really do AI machine learning right now, but this is the time to learn. Like you need to put the 10,000 hours Malcolm Gladwell uh, into it, because for me, like guys, like I was an investor, but like 5 years ago or when I was 26, I was like, I don't want to work in this corporate world anymore. Like I need to change something. And that's when I started really deep diving into stock investing, thematic investing, listening to podcasts, reading books, etc. I put those 10,000 hours in and I hit it actually, I think 2 years ago.
Wow.
So I think that it's really important to put in the hours because it's not going to be a fair world. Like this is not a fair world we're about to enter. It's actually going to get really, really brutal.
Yeah, I feel like we've been talking about this a lot, but it is like every day there's someone who's very on the inside of this news saying, "Hey guys, PS, like just warning you." And even for him to say that, first of all, his PR person probably just like shit a brick, because it's like you don't want to be the AI guy who's out there being like, "Yep, that's what we're doing," unless he's trying to make the point that it's like if you're working for an AI company, then you're going to be okay. If you're not going to have a job. And then my brain went to, okay, we're all going to be working for these AI companies, and then we're all going to be working for the robots. And I'm like, this is too much. I need to. I want to pivot off of tech for a second, but it has an LA angle, Shy. So I don't know if you caught yesterday, Elf Beauty bought Hailey Bieber's Rhode skincare line for $1 billion. So this is their biggest acquisition yet. If you're a dude, you don't have a woman in your life using Elf. Elf is a very popular beauty brand. They're known for fairly consistent pricing, community driven. They have a great loyalty program. I was able to interview their CEO last year, Tarang Amin, really impressive guy. And they've been doing pretty well. They had some headwinds with the tariffs. But yeah, they're going to pay $800 million up front. So $600 million cash, 200 in shares. Bieber will stay on as the chief brand officer. And this is, a big deal. These beauty acquisitions. I don't know if you guys remember a few years ago, Cody bought Kylie Jenner's brand, which it's not going according to plan. But that's happening. Any thoughts on that as a LA native, Shy?
I mean, that brand is so popular. You guys have
Yeah.
no idea. Like I live near Melrose. Like there's a lot of pop-up stores for Rude and always a fat line for the younger demos. And honestly, the best way to capture the younger demographic is through acquisitions of brands. And you saw it with Celsius. I'm blanking on the drink name that
Oh,
we talked about.
Alani.
Yeah, they're doing it
Yeah.
with Alani. Like that's the way to get consumer attention is through acquiring the latest and greatest. And for Elf, like it's not the worst deal. Like they paid 5 times sales. They're probably going to be paying 10 times 2027 net income for like this brand. Like I think it was a kind of a win-win where maybe Justin Bieber's struggles financially pushed Haley Bieber to sell her product. What a great wifey if that's the
Yeah.
case. But it feels like a win-win deal on both
Yeah,
ends.
this photo reminds. Well, first of all, it's just like the pop culture aspect is hilarious because she's just been getting dragged on the internet for stuff Justin's saying and stuff he's doing, and the Selena Gomez fans. And meanwhile, she's just like making this insane deal. People are like big mad about it. I feel like this always happens when like a celebrity brand is successful or sells. People are like, oh, and it's like, you know what? She built a great brand in 3 years. Like, give her flowers. In 3 years, she built this thing and her team. And like you said, it's extremely popular. They have 200 million plus in sales a year. A major company took them out. I mean, it's like, I have no problem with that. I have zero issue. And I even saw like on X, people have like open letters. Like, this is such a statement about who we are as a society that we allow. And I'm just like, what? Like, like, come on, man. Like, so I'm all for it. And yeah, she's doing him a solid, I think, because I read he had to sell a lot of his music to make some money back, and yeah, good for Elf. I mean, again, this is like one of those things too. I know a lot of our viewers are men, and this stuff's like not on the radar. The beauty industry is an insane place to dive into. And if the women in your life talk to them, they'll tell you what's up. There's a lot of interesting things happening there. And I've been watching Elf for a while, actually. And I remember bringing it up to some guy friends a few years ago. And they're like, what is that? I'm like, I think this company's going to. And they end up doing very well. And, you know, it's like some of these consumer brands, it's very different than AI. If you're a person in society, especially in a major metropolitan area, you start to see stuff very early. So not saying everyone watching is going to become a cosmetics expert, but you know, good for Haley Bieber and good for Justin, I guess. It's funny if the prenup situation, because probably when they got married, the roles have flipped. So like to see that. Let's switch over to Salesforce earnings because we were talking about them earlier in the week. So we were talking about their movement to Agent Force, which is priced more on a consumption basis, not on a seat basis. We were talking about why that was important. So they ended up reporting after we had that conversation, they beat revenue expectations. They brought in just under 10 billion, 8% increase year over year. They have also had the acquisition that they announced prior to the earnings call. That's Informatica. Agent Force is proving to drive new growth. That's the automation of business tasks through these little agents they have doing various things for you in the platform. And they're now doubling down on how to monetize that even better. So they were ahead in revenue. They were ahead of their guidance. I know CRM's a weird one. And I think, do you think this is a signal? I know you had some of these SaaS companies might be in trouble. Do you think this is a signal that they're moving in the right direction? Shy, like a ServiceNow?
So I actually I was live on the Spaces. When the CRM results came out, I was like, I think this should be down 5 to like
Oh,
7%. What's the ad right now? Keith, can you bring it up? Oh, it's a boom. See, like it was not a good print. Like I think it was one of those. You guys know CRMs. That's the thematic I'm really bearish on in the
yeah.
agentic AI world we're about to enter. The reason for that is these customer relation tools, like they're kind of replaceable. Like if you think about it, like an AI agent can do a lot of what the CRMs of the world used to provide for enterprises. So it's something that might get disrupted. And I think that in order to buck a disruption narrative, you have to show margin power because that's where pricing power comes from. And I think that you saw a Q1 top line that was stronger than expected, but it was because there was worse operating margins, and current remaining pricing obligation guide was weak, in my opinion. Like it wasn't as strong as you'd think for AI agents kind of picking up steam right now, but somehow Salesforce, which is supposed to be the king of agents, is not doing well right now on their guide. And I think it was just it was a really bad, it was a misleading quarter because everyone looks at the top line growth, but
Mm-hmm.
they don't look at the actual margins. I think that their core business is really slowing down. Like not their not the agent force, which is doing well, fine, low base, but
Yeah.
it's now over 100 million ARR, which is great to see. And I think Data Cloud now is over a billion ARR, growing at triple digit rate. That's great. I want to be a Grinch with Salesforce. That's great.
Hmm.
But their core business is still the bread and butter. And that's now in the mid single digits growth, the sales and service cloud business, mid single digits. So, like, the margin, there's no margin upside with that side of their business. For fine, Agent Force might be contributing somewhat to their RPO base, but I just really like it's looking like there's a narrative on Google because the search business is going to start getting cannibalized from AI. I really do think that Salesforce's service cloud business will get cannibalized from AI, and you're seeing signs, I think, of that. Preliminary signs, but slow signs of that. So I think it was an unremarkable print. I think top line growth was misleading because it was a pretty big margin miss. And I think there's a real narrative now on Salesforce that AI might disrupt them. And I just think that you you wait, like, it's too noisy of a stock to own, and you have to see the momentum that Agent Force is going to have. If that is a one-to-one correlation to the demise of their service cloud business, if it is, great opportunity right now. And maybe they
Hmm.
create this AI flywheel that can reaccelerate growth in the top line eventually, because we're seeing early signs of Agent Force momentum like picking back up. But I just think there's too much noise in this thing.
I think you draw an important distinction between like the realities and the marketing, because Salesforce has always been amazing at marketing, which makes sense. They sell to marketers. So CRM, customer resource management, glorified databases for all these companies that have all the information about us, how they can sell us more things better. And there's multiple tools out there that store the data, connect the data, make it more actionable. And so these agents are basically working within those systems. And so that's how they're very disruptive, because usually when you're in these systems, you're doing that all yourself. And the core value of the systems is simply like holding the information and helping you string it together. If it can do it on its own, it's a little different. But Salesforce is very good at marketing. And so I mean, they're very flashy. They have Agent Force. There's all these little like characters around it. They had big event in New York, like I talked about. I had influencers there. And you brought up ServiceNow, which not a very sexy brand. I would argue not great at marketing. And you seem to think their agentic efforts are better than Salesforce's, but people don't talk about that as much.
Yeah, I mean, Bill's such an operator. That's why. I mean, I think ServiceNow is one of those blue chip SaaS companies that nobody really talks about. It's like not SaaS, like growth, like blue chips growth, because again, they report. They're always the first SaaS company to report earnings, like growth SaaS company to report earnings every single quarter. I think it's an intangible sign that they are a leader in SaaS for that. And I think that they're capturing AI in a much better way. They're positioned for it in a much different and better way than Salesforce is. And it's because they're not positioning itself as just a platform. It's building the very thing that other tools need to plug into. And I think their recent quarter in Salesforce was kind of went from IT management rhetoric to that AI is going to help to actual revenue, because we saw the AI workflows in nearly every single major deal that ServiceNow had in Q1. Their next gen database, which is the Raptor DB, closed a seven-figure contract, and that's their Trojan horse for bucking their licensing model with consumption. So that's really important. If you're bullish on ServiceNow, you need to be bullish on Raptor DB, because while everyone like Salesforce is kind of selling this, is pitching this like AI agents, and like other companies are pitching these co-pilots, like you're seeing ServiceNow literally move data and rewriting workflows and deploying real AI agents inside these industries like government, healthcare, manufacturing, telecom, and they're actually collapsing lead times. They're actually support tickets are disappearing. And if you don't know about IT workflow management, like that's a big deal. So when you have like you're cutting all these times, it provides so much efficiency for these clients now that we don't have to be bogged down by this red tape bureaucracy of user error, or there's something wrong with my computer, something wrong with my login, like help. Like it's much more quick and it does it automatically. And I think that the onboarding is going to be a lot more quick, efficient. But ServiceNow, I'm bullish on ServiceNow, but like I am a little transitioning from a licensing model to consumption is not a flip of a switch. So like even though I'm
Mm-hmm.
seeing signs of them doing that, it's going to be pretty extensive. But Salesforce, like ServiceNow has shown the ability to grow organically. Salesforce literally just acquires their way to growth. And you just saw their recent acquisition as well with Informatica. So like they that's not a good business model anymore. So like I just don't think that they're positioned well in the agentic AI future. They're not going to go to zero. I just don't think they're ever going to be priced accordingly anymore.
Yeah. As you were talking, I was digging into HubSpot, which HubSpot is similar to Salesforce,
Hmm.
serves kind of the mid market. And then I found this like hilarious, hilarious Fortune headline about their CEO. Apparently, their CEO, we can pull it up. Their CEO says she avoids Sunday scaries by simply working on Sundays, which kind of relatable. I've been there, but like, I don't know. I'm like trying to learn about this company. I'm like, why is this okay? That would seem to make them worse. But HubSpot also had Q1 earnings earlier in the month. They are also making statements, moves in agentic AI. So that's something to watch if you're a SaaS investor. Look what those companies you're holding, what moves they're making there. And again, like Shay called out, like movement to the consumption model. I want to switch over now to Duolingo. So Duolingo is an interesting brand, very popular consumer brand. It's obviously the language learning app, but they're expanding into things like math and history. I think that's great. They have a good product. Very good at IR, very good at retail IR. So, and also just amazing at social media. You've probably seen they have like this owl mascot, although I think they recently killed off the owl mascot. I don't really know why. Um, but they are facing a little bit of backlash because similar to companies, I believe Shopify made comments like this and some other companies, the CEO got out there and back to the AI thing said, you know, their strategy would be AI first and they were planning to replace contractors with AI generated course creators. So this is interesting because this is, you know, knowledge creation is their whole business, content creation. And he came out and said it. He's like, yeah, we're just going to use AI to make the content. People flipped out. And I think that's kind of like the early stage of where we're at with AI, where like people are not ready to accept that this is where it's probably going. So they announced 148 AI created courses, and users freaked out. They said it was tone deaf, especially a brand known for its playful personality and mission to democratize learning. So I think it's interesting the AI shift for the B2B brands a little easier because it's, you know, business people talking to business people. Yeah, cut that entire team and use this tool. Consumer brands, I think they're in a little bit of a stickier spot. And I know you don't really, you don't invest in any consumer brands, do you, Shy?
I
Yeah.
don't because they talk about flip of a switch. Like that's when the consumer demand, you just don't know like when it
Yeah.
stops. Like you just saw Celsius, like it's kind of just stopped out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Um, I also think that there's so much noise to capture consumers' attention that I don't think the sales and marketing or R&D can ever just be low percentages of a total revenue. So that results in minimal margin expansion. And margin expansion is kind of the name of the game for shareholder return on your investment. So I think it's not where I want to be. And Duolingo, like that's one company I got really wrong. I
Oh, yeah.
really did not think that
You're
they had it.
bearish?
I was bearish because I was just like, it's a fun product, but I'm getting signs of Snapchat from 10 years ago when
Yeah.
people are using it because of the social pressure of maintaining your streak. And it's less about learning the language, it's more about I can't lose the streak. I'm
Mm.
playing with my friend. If I do, it's like causes all this stuff. Like I just so I was like,
Yeah.
is it that much of an ad value? Like maybe it replaces education, like maybe it replaces a check, for example, or just like people are curious and want to learn new languages. But I just don't think that's the case. And I think that a lot of devices in the future are going to infuse AI where it's going to be so easy to like say something in French or in Italian that you don't really have to learn the language, put in the hours and effort, that it's just going to be a lost art. And because of that, I'm like, what's the mode for Duolingo in the future? Like I don't see one. I've been wrong,
Yeah.
but I see it as a nice niche, but no moats, and it's just purely based on like what Snapchat did 10 years ago and your streaks that you send snaps to your friends, like you want to maintain it. It's a similar kind of manipulation on consumers.
Yeah, and this is where like the IR messaging for retail matters. I've talked to their IR team and like interesting conversations because they're like pointing things out casually that I'm like, people don't know that. And one of them is a lot of their growth is coming from international markets of people learning English. So we see our friends using it. Like, I'm going to go to Paris for 2 weeks. I'm going to learn some French. Like a lot of their growth is coming from people outside of the US who see like, I need to learn English so I can advance myself. And I'm like, that's a story. And again, like, I don't know if that says it's a moat, but it's interesting. You know, we have these consumer products, we have our perception of them in our day-to-day lives. We don't see the full picture. And so the IR team, the executive leadership team, it's their job to sort of spell that out. And sometimes it's hard to do. But that shocked me because I'm like, I've never thought of using it to learn English. Like that never even crossed my mind. So
Yeah, I mean, they do a great job on the marketing. So I'm shocked that they didn't communicate that efficiently, but maybe there's a reason for that, just because it's not sexy.
Yeah, yeah. They gotta stick to the owl. Well, I want to ask about what you think is going to happen in the Knicks game tonight because I'm a little nervous, and I also want to ask you, Shay, about what you thought of Timmy C's outfit last time, which I thought was very fly, and a lot of people were dogging him for it.
What? I thought it was freaking
Right?
cool. I can't knock it
Yeah.
off because my chin's way too strong with those glasses, but it would just be a really bad combo.
I gotta say, Shay, I was in the chat the other day and someone's just like, Shai's jawline could cut through diamonds. And I was like, all right, easy, fella. Easy. Take it easy. Like, so I guess you're right. I guess there's something to it, but look how cool this friggin' outfit is. I mean, he looks awesome. I'm a little worried though. I think Cat might be out. Like, I don't know.
Well, it's really hard to close out a game 5 like when you're on the brinks of leaving. I did not know the shoes, but first
The
off,
whole
like
thing goes so hard.
he
So
looks
hard.
like a bowler. Like I love it.
I know,
I love
I
he's
love
about
it.
to bowl, but he's got so much aura that he can do whatever he wants, for sure. And just like what a modern family right
The
there. That picture
Tims.
on the far right
I
with the New York fans.
Someone said he's dressed like Ray Liotta at the tail end of Goodfellas when he's like on cocaine and being chased by the feds. And I'm like, that is such a like mood board to jump off from.
Totally.
Love that guy though.
I mean,
Love him.
I hope the Knicks win today, but because I will love a game 7. I also think that the finals, I'm rooting for the Pacers, but like Indiana versus OKC is going to not do well with numbers on
No.
eyeballs. I think
Yeah,
New York
yeah.
in the finals, like this is their time for them to actually win the finals because like you have a 64-win team, the Cavs just like did not show up. Tatum got injured and is out for the full year, so Celtics aren't there. You saw the Bucks, like Damian Lillard just injured his Achilles, and now like, Giannis might leave the Bucks. Like Jimmy Butler screwed the Heat. Like there's a lot of different pieces right now on the East that ended up working out for it's wide open, and it gave the Knicks the opportunity to actually win the championship. And they're just fumbling the ball. Like why? Like, they're healthy. Like it's just weird. It's bad coaching. They should have expanded the bench early on, but it's weird. Like it feels like it should be the other way around. Like Pacers should be down 3-1, but it's just because it feels like the Knicks are winning the series, but they're down 3-1. It's weird.
I
It's
know.
a weird combo.
Yeah, I was also looking for like weird bets to make going back to sports betting, and I was like, where can I bet that like Timmy's gonna get in a scuffle with Halliburton's dad? Because I could see it. I can see it. Like, you know, Timmy's like drinking at those games. The dad is now just allowed back. He's like ready to go. He already went at Giannis. So I'm like, how do I do this? I like, looked on Polymarket. I'm like, how do I invent a bet to make? Because I think it could happen. Who knows? Looking ahead to next week though, Shay, in the markets. What is there anything? I know we're kind of getting through like earnings and through a lot of your big
matters.
What is this? Oh yes. Shay, this is probably before your time. So the show family.
What the hell? What the hell? What the hell, auntie? What the hell, home? What the hell, Barry?
Do you know the show Family Matters?
Oh yeah. I mean,
Okay.
I'm 31. I'm not too young.
Yeah, but I mean, so I was young when it was on. Like, so yeah, that's Stefan. And you can see, I love NBA memes. They do memes better than any other sport. They're just the goat at it. But yeah, let's go back. So next week, what are we thinking of next week when we're going to have the tariff stuff, probably situation ongoing. You're through a lot of your big earnings. Anything you're particularly watching out for in the coming days as we head to the weekend?
It's still earnings season, so like we got
Yeah.
CrowdStrike reporting after the bell on Tuesday. That's a
Oh.
big one. Sentinel one today, yesterday. So we'll see if cybersecurity is just not doing. There's some paralysis there. It's hard for me to believe that's the case. Then we also have MongoDB reporting on Wednesday. That's a name that I unfortunately own, and it's just one that's in the doghouse. If they don't show me signs of reacceleration on the top line in the next like 6 months, cutting them loose. Like there's no reason they should not be growing 20% this year. It's just I think maybe Amazon's bedrock is just a much bigger competitive headwind than I thought, but they're perfectly positioned. They're really positioned well in this agentic AI world about to enter on the NoSQL database, unstructured data, but they're not seeing the fundamentals. Like eventually they're going to have to, or I'm just cutting baits. And they have Broadcom on Thursday. I just told you about the networking side of Nvidia's business yesterday. Like Broadcom's reporting on Thursday, and I think it's going to be really, really strong numbers. We just saw proof. Inference data is exploding. That's where Broadcom's going to make a ton of money on the networking side of their business. And you also have Rubrik reporting after the bell on Thursday, and that's one of the names in my new age defense bucket, hitting all-time highs like every single week. It's just data resilience. It's a real theme that is just you need to be able to control your data and have a safety blanket on it when things go poorly on the security front, and they have a monopoly in that essentially. But yeah, next week is there's some
Next week's like the Nerd Olympics.
yeah
This is
a little
big. And Nixon 7. We got a big week on deck. We got a huge week. I'm excited. CrowdStrike will be good. We'll have to go hard in the paint on that one.
Yeah, definitely. But I mean, the bulk of it's done. I think we're about to enter the summer months as well. Nothing really happens there, so enjoy some time in the sun. Try to relax a little because touch grass. The first 6 months were brutal.
Continue playing around on Stocktwits as you touch grass. You can take your phone outside. That's fine too. All right, Shay. I hope you have an awesome weekend, and I'll see you Monday, and we'll see all of you guys next week, 9 a.m. Eastern, as we do every day. Back for some more market news. Thanks for joining us.